You sent me 3 new fabrics, each with their own unique challenges. Let's see how I did. Hi, it's Fran Morgan with Fabric Cafe, and I'm your Fabric Matchmaker. Fabric Matchmaker is a show where you send in your fabric and you challenge me to match it with 2 other fabrics and pick a pattern. It is really a lot of fun, and we've got some great stories because I love to hear the history of the fabric. So if you would like to participate in Matchmaker, stay tuned to the end and I'll step through how to do that. Our first participant today is Faith, and she sent us this great fabric with all of the candy on it. And this is a really large print with this great background and all of these beautiful colors. So let's read Faith's story and see what she has to say about this fabric. Faith writes, "Dear Fran, my love for fabric and quilting began in 2003 when I took out a library book about quilting and made my first quilt. Like most quilters, I have a very large stash. The fabric enclosed was purchased in 2004 at an estate sale. The fabric caught my eye immediately. As soon as I saw it, I thought of Gene Wilder escorting the children into the Wonka chocolate factory and singing about a world of pure imagination. Every time I walk into a quilt shop, I think about how fabric inspires our imagination. I have wanted to turn this sweet-filled fabric into a quilt for a while, but couldn't decide on a design, matching fabric, and how or if I should cut it. In April, I became a grandma for the first time. I would love to make my grandson a quilt with this fabric. I look forward to you making me the perfect match." Well, Faith, I think we have something really, really fun for you, and I'm going to break the rules just a little bit. So let's look at the quilt pattern I've chosen. So this is our bold blocks pattern. And part of the reason why I chose this for you, Faith, is because it has a very large block here. Now, this particular quilt pattern has one of the biggest blocks in our library of patterns. So this is perfect for your large print. So let's put it up on the table and look at the matches. Okay, so we've got this great fabric. Now, for all of you there, I'm going to open this up just a little bit because this is a very large print. And it has, you can see, a big repeat here. So I want to have a block that's big enough to really show off and showcase different portions of this fabric because it is really fun. I really, really like this. And you know, it does remind me of Willy Wonka just a little bit. So this is going to be our focus fabric, Faith, your fabric that you sent in. It will go into our large block here. And I think whenever you go to cut your blocks, you're going to get different sections of your candy in each block. So each block is going to look uniquely different, which I really like. Now, I have put your fabric with this great black and this brilliant blue. Now, this is where I've broken the rules just a little bit. Typically, whenever we take our focus fabric out of the equation, we would have our lightest fabric as the number 2 and the darkest fabric as the number 3. But in this case, I think it looked much better and worked better with the black as the number 2. So that's going to be the background here. And then the blue is going to be kind of like this little highlight on the block here. So, and the reason why I did that, and I think it's pretty cool, I'm going to go back to the black. Because you have a black background on your fabric, I think that the black kind of made a continuation of the print into the background. So it almost looked like the candy's just popping up in little sections and it's kind of blends it together. Then when we put the blue on the edge here, it really gives it that frame, which I really like. Now it's kind of a one-sided offset frame, but it's really great. So let's look at the image of this so you can see what I'm talking about. The focus fabric is perfect because whenever you cut it up, because it's such a large print, it gives you those unique blocks and that unique vision of the fabric. And then the black background just flows into the focus. So it matches the background and it really looks great. The blue gives you that little zing and that pop of color that is just perfect. Now, I hope your grandson loves this quilt. I think it's darling. And for participating today, I am going to send you a copy of the Pretty Darn Quick book, which is has the bold blocks pattern in it, as well as 1 yard of our fabric number 2 and our fabric number 3. And don't forget, I did switch those, so be sure and do that on your quilt as well. Now for the rest of you, got something really cool. Now I was not able to find the exact matching candy fabric, but look how fun this is. I just love it. It's got all the same bright colors, just those little sweet treats that are just give us that imagination that Faith was talking about. And I think it kind of evokes those same things. So our fun candy fabric is going to go in our big block here. Now in our case, we're going to stick to the rules, and the number 2 fabric is going to be the lightest after you remove the focus, and that will go everywhere you see the green here. And then we've got this great red. Now, you know, when you think of candy, red was always the best color for candy, don't you know? Whenever I was a kid, I always wanted the red ones because I knew they were cherry or strawberry or watermelon or one of those. And so this is what it always makes me think of. Love the red with this. It really pops the red out here. And doesn't it make a great, great quilt? So let's look at that image on the screen. I think that you can see just how much fun. It looks like sweet treats, a little sprinkles in between, and that yummy cherry bordering it. Just love it. And I think it turned out really well. So our kit information on this one, it is called Sweet Imagination. The number is 8022595. And once again, it is our bold blocks pattern from the Pretty Darn Quick book. Now our next fabric was sent in by Sandra, and Sandra sent in this lovely, very reminiscent, sweet fabric with all the little hearts and the notes and the lace, and just to love it. Now Sandra, I've had your fabric for just a bit, and I really made an effort to select just the perfect things for you. So I hope that you like them, and let's read Sandra's story so we have the background of this fabric. Sandra writes, I married my school sweetheart. We met when we were 12 years old. We married when juniors in college. My sweetheart would write the most beautiful love letters and bring roses often. One morning, I woke up and he had put Post-it notes all over that said, I love you. One day I was in the fabric store and saw this fabric. It touched my heart and brought beautiful memories to me. I don't know what color to put with it. I need help. I want to make a quilt that shows our love for each other. My best friend is no longer with me. He had kidney cancer. He put up a good fight but lost the battle. I would like to put this quilt together in his memory. He used to give my quilts to people that might need a hug or were having a challenging day. Quilts are made to put smiles on people's faces or to give them a hug when they wrap up in them. Love your program and love the half square triangles. I would appreciate any help you might be able to give me. Sandra, that was such a beautiful story. So let me show you what I've put together for your fabric, and let's look at the pattern first. So I have chosen the Traditions pattern for your fabric. Now there's a couple of reasons why I have done this. One, it is one of my go-to patterns for a larger print because I really like how this block here is nice and large. You can use a directional fabric in this block, and it's bordered very nicely with your number 3 fabric. So I think it's going to show off your fabric really, really well. And I love the fact that it's called Traditions, and I think that all of those sweet things that you were talking about in your letter are traditions that as families we definitely follow, and your story is such a sweet one. So let's look at the matchers and put this up on the table. So this is just lovely, and we are going to be using your fabric in the number 1 position, Sandra. So we are going to kind of lay it up here just like this so that you can see. Now your fabric, as I said, I've had it for a little while because I wanted to keep looking for just the perfect matches. So thank you for your patience there. And you have a lot of coloring in your fabric. So we have these great pinks and kind of deeper tones in rose. We have a nice beige background. We have a little bit of ecru with some lace florals in here in the black. But the main thing is I wanted to get this in a big block so that we can really see it, because this is what says the love letters and all of your sweet memories that you have. Once again, this is going to go in the big block here, And then little bits of it will be in your points of your star here. Now the number 2 fabric, and this was very important to me. I found this fabric that had a little bit of a lace background. This is a tone on tone, but it has 2 different tones to it, a little bit deeper ecru and a little bit lighter, which picks up both tones in your fabric. So even though it has a lot of contrast, it's not super harsh, which was very important to me. I wanted to keep that warm, kind of sweet quilt hug feel on our contrasting fabric, our number 2 here. And this lace print really does that. So that's going to go everywhere in the background here. And then I picked up for the number 3, the deepest of the rose tones. And it's almost like a burgundy, but it's really just a deep, deep rose that picks up all these colors in here for you. This is going to be our border on our big block, as well as the other points on your star. And I think this perfectly mimics those roses. So I think it's going to just look amazing. So I've got an image on the screen, and as you can see how lovely that goes together. It is a very, very sweet quilt. I think it came together beautifully, and I hope that it gives you that hug that you're so hoping for, and that you do continue to have those very, very sweet memories. Now, our Traditions quilt comes from our Make It Christmas book, and I will be sending you a copy of the book, as well as 1 yard of the number 2 and 1 yard of the number 3 fabric for participating today. And thank you so very much. Now we have something really sweet for the rest of you, more love letters. So this was fantastic. I was so happy that I was able to find a fabric that kind of mimics something similar that Sandra's had, because it has all these little mementos and love notes and embroideries, and I think it really shows all of those sweet little trinkets that we keep for those sentimental purposes. This is our focus fabric. Of course, it'll go in the big block in our number 1 and on the points. Then our number 2 fabric is that same kind of lacy fabric. It's that tone on tone, little bit of texture, just love it. Picks up all these great tones in our focus fabric. That will go all in the background here. And then in this case, this focus fabric has a little bit lighter tones, so I went with a pinker, rosier fabric for the number 3, and it will border your main block as well as in the points here and on the border. And I think that this coordinated really well, and it kind of kept that romantic feel, which I was hoping to do. So I really, really like that. So let's look at the image on the screen of that one. And as you can see, even though we've gone with a little bit lighter shades of the pinks and the ecrus, it still has that same sweet, sweet feel and sentiments that Sandra's does. So I really, really enjoy it. So this kit is 8022596. It is called Love Letters, and the pattern is Traditions from our Make It Christmas book, and the alternate pattern that we're suggesting is Heartfelt. Our next sweet story and fabric is sent to us by Pamela. And Pamela sent us this really lovely bird fabric. And I love this because we have our bluebirds here on our branches. And they're like lovebirds because you can see they're paired up here. We've got 2 of them together. Best friends, it looks like. And I really love that. Let's see what Pamela has to say about this fabric. Pamela writes, years ago, my mother picked out this fabric for a border of an applique quilt I was making. This was a very slow project, so after a few years, she asked me to make another quilt so she could have time to enjoy it. I gave her the queen-size quilt I made for my guild's 5-inch 9-patch challenge. She used and enjoyed this quilt for over 16 years. I gave up on the applique blocks and used all but this bluebird cloth in other projects. Now I want to make a special quilt for myself using the bluebird fabric my mother picked out. She called them the Bluebirds of Happiness. And I can see that because I can see how they're just so happy on these branches. I love it. So let's go look at the pattern that we've chosen. Now, coincidentally, this pattern is called Flights of Fancy, which I thought was perfect. So we've got a nice block here that is bordered, and then we have our nice little triangle patch here with our half square triangles. And I think that whenever we do this in our colors that we've chosen, they look a little bit like trees. So let's put that up so I can show you. Put it up on the table. Now, Pamela, I worked very hard here. I love your fabric. I just think it is so sweet. And I have put it in the focus position. So that is the number 1 position. And this is a directional fabric, so it works really well in this quilt as well, because we will be cutting our blocks here, and it'll show off just beautifully all these sweet little birds. Now, the number 2 fabric that I have chosen is, once again, it's not a white. White is a nice ecru with a little bit of texture. And usually whenever I try to find the number 2 for the pattern that I'm using, is I look at the background color of the number 1, and I use something that's very close to the background for the number 2, because I really think that that blends well. The number 3 fabric is our pop and our contrast. So with our number 3 fabric, I found this great green and blue. What I really like about this is it picks up both the colors in the fabric here, and the backgrounds are also very, very similar. So I think it works really well. Now, our number 3 fabric is going to be in these triangles here, as well in this border here. And I think it just works great. So I'm very excited about this one. I think it turned out really, really sweet. And we do have an image on the screen for you. And as I mentioned, the name of the pattern is Flights of Fancy. And whenever we do our triangles here out of the green, I think it kind of looks like trees. So it almost looks like your birds are up in the trees, which I really think is fun. And I think it's a really, really sweet, fun quilt. So for participating today, I will be sending you the book, The Magic of 3-Yard Quilts, which has the Flights of Fancy pattern in it. And then I will also be sending you, Pamela, 1 yard of the number 2 fabric and 1 yard of the number 3 fabric, so that we can complete our quilts. I hope this works out wonderfully for you. All right, now for the rest of you, I've got something super fun. I have similar birds, which I'm very excited about here. So we have our birds on a pink background this time. Very sweet, and I think it's kind of fun because it's, it's getting close to Valentine's, and I really think this works well for that. So the birds are just so pretty. They will go in this block here as well as on the border. And then we have the same number 2 fabric, which is kind of this ecru textured here, which will go in the background here and on the borders. And then our number 3 fabric, the great green that blends so well with our green leaves here. And this will be our points and the border piece on our block for those. And as you can see on the screen, how wonderful that looks. And it goes together just so sweet. And once again, it's like you're looking out a spring day into the trees with the birds all up in the trees. And I just think it really creates a neat, neat quilt. So the quilt information on this in the kit is 8022597. It is called Birds of Happiness. The pattern is Flights of Fancy from the book The Magic of 3-Yard Quilts, and the alternate pattern will be Sugar Pie. Now, we had 3 great participants today and viewers that sent in their fabric. So I'd like to hear from you. What was your favorite? How do you think I did on matching these fabrics? I'd love to hear. Now, if you have a special fabric that you would like to send in to the Fabric Matchmaker, just go to our website, fabriccafe.com, click on the free goodies tab and pull down to tip and guide sheets. And there you will see a submission form for the Fabric Matchmaker. Send us at least a 6-inch swatch. I would prefer a 12, and give us a little history on the fabric. I love to hear all your stories, and I know that everyone out there loves to hear them too, so thank you so much. Enjoyed it today? My name is Fran Morgan, and I am your Fabric Matchmaker.